A while back, I had quite a few requests from people to do a build guide for this character. Now, honestly, I did not have this character on global until recently. I did have him on JP, but I didn't want to do like a JP build guide and have to switch back and forth for translations between Pride Win and the game. So now I finally have him on global. I'm finally able to build him somewhat, and I'm more than happy to go over his build guide. However, I am going to say this is probably one of the worst defenders in the game. Even like free to play Asta, the swimsuit Asta, who is free to play for us on global, is probably a better defender choice. So just keep that in mind as we're going through this. Now, if you just like his drip, right, or how cool he is, or maybe you just like Vetto himself, then today we're going to talk about how you guys should be building him. Like, so for his skills, what skills do you want to upgrade first? What skill cards you want to equip to him? What gear you want to run on him, which is like really like unique. You need to run something very specific to make him viable. Whether or not you actually want to enhance him, what talents you want to run on him, and then of course what teams he fits well on for both PvP and PvE. So let's start by talking about his passive. His passive is interesting. Grants a 15% fortified buff for one turn upon using lifesteal. Only applies to lifesteal gained through own skills, okay? So that's actually pretty nice because that's extra defense for him anytime he has lifesteal. However, his lifesteal is conditional on his skill, so it's kind of a pain in the butt to actually activate at times. So if we look at skill 1 here, skill 1 is called Savage Blow. It is a single target attack, and it inflicts a disarm level 1 debuff on the enemy for 2 turns. Like, that's so sad. It's disarm level 1. That reduces damage by 23%, whereas other characters do like disarm level 3 or 4, and so like this level 1 is just really sad for Vetto. But you know what, it's something. It reduces the damage the enemy is going to do. It helps your team survive. It helps Vetto survive if he's the one getting hit. So it's something, right? And you can do that every turn because it is skill 1, so it's not terrible. Now his skill 2 is an AoE attack. It's called Savage Onslaught, and if HP is lower than 75%, attacks after granting self 65% lifesteal. Now the catch is you do have to be below that threshold of health, otherwise that will not activate. Okay, so it's kind of a weird character. Like, for his abilities to kick in, you have to lose health, so those stipulations make it harder to use him. And then also, for each fallen ally, attacks after granting a 35% increased damage dealt buff. That is pretty good if your whole team is dead, but like, how easy is it to still win a match when your whole team is dead? Also, I want to point out, like, this is his big damage dealer because it's the AoE. It's even better than his special, and you're relying on the fact that your whole team has died basically, and Vetto is just going to pop off with all that extra damage that he's going to do. But the thing is, if you look at his speed is relatively low, only being at 100 for an LR character. For someone who was initially an SSR, there are SR characters with almost the same amount of speed. Like, if we go up here and look at Gifso has a speed of 110. Vetto's speed is so like pathetic. It's really sad. So the thing is, even if your whole team dies, right, he might not have enough speed to even go before the enemy team finishes him off, right? If he does get this attack off, then you could potentially clap a whole team with Vetto, but it's going to be hard to do because he doesn't have very much speed. So keep that in mind. Also, you can increase damage dealt on this skill if you get it up to level 5, but you do have to get it all the way to level 5. But this skill right here is going to be his big damage. It could, for a defender to be able to do AoE big damage, it's actually kind of a cool idea. It just doesn't really work out as well as it does in theory. Okay, and then for his special skill, it is a single target attack. It's called Bear Claw, and he attacks after granting a 70% lifesteal. He also grants a 50% lifesteal when attacking an enemy afflicted with a debuff. Okay, so that's pretty nice if you're running him with a debuffer, because he gets that 50% lifesteal and 70% right there. That works out pretty well. However, it is only single target, so keep that in mind. And then for his combo attack, a 60% chance to inflict taunt on an enemy for one turn. It becomes a 100% chance if you upgrade it to level 4. And then his affiliation attack here with Fauna attacks after granting an increased damage dealt buff in proportion to current HP. I don't actually like this as much as I like just the normal combined attack, so I wouldn't really run him with Fauna if you can help it, okay? But in terms of this right here, having a guaranteed taunt, even if it is just for one turn, that can be really good in PvE against bosses. matches, and it can also be decent in PvP. So if you were to ask me like which skill should you be upgrading first, technically I would say skill 2 if you're going to go all the way to level 5 because of that extra damage, and you just want to scale the damage in general because this is his biggest, hardest hitting attack. So I would upgrade skill 2 first, then I would probably upgrade his combo skill for that 100% taunt activation rate. Then I would do his special skill, then I would do his skill 1. Okay, so that's kind of the order you want to go in for upgrade priority, but overall I would just recommend in general not to upgrade his skills if you have other characters you need to work on, because those other characters are going to take priority. But if you really like the character, once again, you know, that's the order I would do. Now in terms of skill cards, this skill card I have equipped to him is actually a really good option. Moonlight Necklace grants a 40% increased defense buff and a 6% increased HP recovery buff, which is really good in terms of his kit because he's giving himself lifesteal and he's tanky, right? So we're giving him more tank and we're giving him more healing, which is, you know, good. So that's a very, very good option for Vetto. Besides that, you could obviously run his skill card, and his skill card here is called Bringer of Despair. And what this one is going to do is when HP is getting recovered, which should be a lot, right? Gains a barrier equal to 100 to 140% of own attack. Okay, that is pretty good. I actually am curious, now that I'm reading this, I'm wondering how that would work with like the Season 2 Charmy who constantly recovers HP if he gets a barrier every time. I think that's how that would work, but I don't have this skill card, unfortunately, so I can't test that out. But I think that's how that would work, and in that case, that could be actually really pretty good. And then if we go down here to the before and after for skill 2, so on skill 2, you get these effects that we talked about before, but then if you have this skill card, you get the additional effect of a 60% chance to inflict extend debuffs by 1 turn on an enemy. That's nice. It's just an extra cherry on top. I wish that was 100% like a guaranteed extend debuff, but you know what, for a defender to be able to even extend debuffs, I will take it because that's not typically something a defender has. So overall, I would say if you can run his skill card, do it, because I think this is technically the best option, with Moonlight Necklace being the second best option. But then if you don't have either of these skill cards here, you could also run Survival of the Fittest, which is Mars' skill card, and this applies a 4 to 8% fortify on yourself upon taking damage, and it stacks up to 4 times and it resets at the start of each turn. And as you know, Vetto is pretty slow, so you will have this fortify for a long amount of time. And then Preserving Resolution is an SR option that hopefully everybody has. And what this does is it applies a 10 to 18% reduced damage taken to yourself upon taking damage from a boss. So the reason I pointed this one out is because his LR passive, when you enhance him, is going to have to do with a boss, right? So if you go for that route and fully enhance him, then this would actually kind of play into that and be good. But this would be more of a PvE option skill card right there. Okay, let's talk about the gear you want to run on Vetto. So this is the gear I currently have on him, and I am going to say it is very, very, very important that you build for sets on this Vetto as opposed to stats. But like, stats are also important. I don't know, it's hard to say, but sets are the most important thing, okay? So I would go for a gold attack set, a gold defense set, and a gold mobility set. And I would say almost every single one of those is essential and almost irreplaceable, okay? So the reason you need the attack set here is because you want Vetto to be able to do as much damage on his AoE skill 2 as possible, so you want to increase his attack. Also, his skill card, right, if we go back and look at his skill card here, when HP is being recovered, gains a barrier equal to 100 or 140% of own attack. So if you are increasing his attack, you're going to get a bigger barrier, right? So you want to put attack gear on him if you can. That's actually going to be very important if you can do it. And then the other thing you want is defense gear. Defense gear is just going to make him more tankable and give him more survivability so that he can be that last one standing if your team dies. So you want to give him as much defense as possible, especially considering he doesn't have like an insane amount of HP. And then you want to give him a gold mobility set that's going to grant him a 5% increased speed buff for 2 turns at the start of a wave, because that's going to help him at least be a little bit faster. Now you could potentially, this is an option you could do, I would still keep the attack, but you could potentially try to take the defense off here and go for a full mobility set on him, because his speed is so low. But I don't know if I would necessarily recommend that. Now, in terms of attack or magic attack, you do want to build him for attack according to his skill card and just because that's the way you want to build him for his stats to do the most amount of damage. So you can see right here, most of my stuff is going towards attack. So if we were to look here, we have attack, attack, and then this is going to be defense, defense, attack. Okay, so these 3 are attack. We have 2 defense and we have 1 HP. And I do recommend getting as much HP. Like if you have substats and you can find HP substats, I don't think I have very many here, but there's one. Get as much HP on him as you can to just give him a little bit more survivability. Okay, so but in terms of sets, these are the sets you want. And then in terms of stats, you are aiming for attack right there. And really quickly, let me explain gold sets in case you don't know what they are. If we go into grade, we go to sets over here, you can see we have an attack set just like what we have over here, except for this one does not have a gold star. The regular attack set is never as good as the gold attack set. So always try to equip gold sets if you can, because it's just going to be better for stats overall. Okay, so go for gold sets whenever you can. And then besides that, let's talk about enhancement. Should you be enhancing this guy or not? So if we go in and view enhancement levels, and if you dupe him out twice, you get a 7% reduced damage taken, only though when attacked by a boss. This is the part that kind of sucks. It would be better if it was just a flat reduced damage taken, but because it has the stipulation of attacked by a boss, it doesn't work in PvP, which is rough, right? And then if we go a little bit further here, you get the additional defense, right, which is nice. But then at step 5, if you fully dupe him out, grants 14% reduced damage taken, but once again, only when attacked by a boss. So in terms of enhancement, should you be duping him out or not? I would say absolutely not, because there are other tanks that can do the same thing as Vetto, if not better, in both PvE and PvP. Since he is only good for PvE with his passive, yeah, I wouldn't waste my time. You want a character that's going to be versatile and useful for both PvE and PvP. Now in the future, could they rework this? Absolutely. It wouldn't be that hard to change that stipulation, but I don't know if they'll do that anytime soon. And then in terms of talents, you are going to want to go for the crit rate talent here. That's going to stack at the start of a wave. Actually, I wouldn't go for that. I don't know why it's there. I had these preset, but I guess it didn't save. I would go for the attack talent right here, plus 7%, and then I would go for the damage dealt, plus 5%. These are the two I would go for. You could go for the crit rate if you wanted to potentially hit crits on that AoE, but I think the damage dealt and the attack are the better way to go. Then in terms of defense, I would probably go for defense plus 20% and the stacking defense and crit resist here at the start of a wave, because that's just going to be good on him, especially since you're going to be using him more realistically in PvE versus PvP. And then for support talents, I would probably go for swiftness, and then I would also go for the increased HP recovery right here, plus 5%, because that's just going to help him when he is lifestealing do more HP recovery, right? And then also when he's recovering HP, he is also getting a barrier, remember? So I think these are going to be the best two for him. Give him a special back faster, and then give him extra HP recovery. So those are the talents I would run on Vetto personally. Now let's talk about the teams that you want to potentially run him on in both PvP and PvE. So this team right here is a team you could try to run right now in PvP on global, since we just had the new Noel release. And so this is a really interesting team because William buffs attack, and remember Vetto is built towards attack, so you could buff Vetto, also buffing his speed, right, which is going to help him out a little bit. You're also doing the debuffs with Noel that reduce the damage the enemy is doing overall, and then you also have Julius to just do massive amounts of damage. So like, I don't know, I feel like this team could work out pretty well overall in PvP. Another team you can run would be this mono red team right here. I would say this is more of a PvE team, but you could almost definitely try it in a PvP setting against the right team. It's not going to work against every team, right? But you have Yuno here, who is arguably one of the fastest characters in the game with his mobility. He is insanely good on a mono red team. You have Noelle here with the barriers. You have Charmy with her insane pumpkin pie effect that does damage. And so then you have Vetto here for really good defense, as well as giving himself barriers if you have a skill card, and then the barriers of Noelle on top of that. Like it could be a really insane team and a very decent team when it comes to PvP, but overall I would see this being used more in PvE. And anyways guys, those are the teams I would use for Vetto. That is his build guide. If you guys enjoyed the video, please consider going down there, hitting that like button, hitting that subscribe button, and thank you guys so much for watching. Peace.